So, good morning, everybody. I'm Marie Jenkins from Advance Your Wellbeing, and welcome to today's Housing Week episode. And today we've got John Hotowka. Hiya, John.
Hiya, hiya. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
Thank you for
I'm
coming on.
excited. I'm all excited. I really am. I'm all
I can tell.
excited. I know. I think we've been in lockdown too long. But anyway, go on.
So, John, Can you start us off by telling us who you are and what it is that you do?
Oh, right. Okay. Right. So my name is John Hotowka, as you said. I'm a speaker. I'm known as the Achievement Thinking Speaker. So basically, I go into organizations, I speak at conferences and seminars and goodness knows whatever, and do workshops. And I talk about achievement thinking, which is all about building resilience, managing change, and boosting performance. So organizations whose people are struggling maybe with work-life balance or self-motivation, or they might need a bit of inspiration or putting their lives into perspective. Then they call me in to give them some mindset tools to help them to do that.
Well, we first met when we was at PSA, which is the Public Speaking Association in
No,
Birmingham.
it's the Professional Speaking Association.
Sorry, I stand corrected.
Slap your panties.
And I was just blown away by how well you engaged with the audience, and it really resonated.
Yeah, it's for me, okay, it's important. The most important thing when you are speaking, when you're addressing an audience, is content. That is the absolutely most important thing. But if you don't dress it up where it is engaging, then there's less chance that an audience will listen. If an audience is engaged, if they're entertained, they're more likely to listen. If they're more likely to listen, and when they listen, they're more likely to take on board what's been said. When they take on board what's been said, they're more likely to take action. And when they take action, that's how we get results. So, so I've got a way, but we'll talk about a bit about that a little later on, won't we? Because we're going to talk a little bit about my background, aren't we?
Absolutely. So, this is going out for our housing week. But what's your connection with social housing then?
Right, I am fortunate enough that I get to speak to all sorts of industries. I've worked in virtually every industry and sector that you can think of. Because the reason for that is because I talk about the human condition. And guess what? In every sector you talk about it, what's in common with all those things? The human condition, because we're all people at the end of the day. So the connection that I've had with the housing sector is basically that I've spoken at a few conferences in the housing sector that have thankfully gone very, very well, and people have enjoyed them. So that's the only connection really that I've actually spoken in that sector.
Yeah, yeah. You spoke, was it community housing,
Yeah, the
Comrades?
community housing of Cymru. I think in the last few years, I've spoken at about five of their events. In fact,
Ah.
I spoke recently at one of their events. Well, as we are speaking, not as the recording goes out, but as we are speaking now, about a few couple of weeks ago. So the
Yeah.
first online event for them that I did, which was
Wow.
interesting.
Wow.
Yeah,
Brilliant stuff.
I
Brilliant
know.
stuff. So, we're talking about human condition. What do you believe to be the biggest sort of challenge or actually opportunity for housing professionals
Okay.
post
Look,
COVID?
yeah, well, look, okay, looking at the housing industry, housing sector, should I say? Right, there are all sorts of challenges that they're facing. I mean, everything from the change of demographic of the people that are in the sector, the introduction of AI, and how is that going to affect future working? But in terms of what I do, which is mindset and building resilience and managing change, I think the biggest change and one of the biggest challenges that they've got is something that they've actually actually been very good at. During lockdown, they've been phenomenal at embracing working from home, which is absolutely fantastic. The challenge with that is that even though they've kept, okay, they've still had to look after their properties and their tenants, and they've had to do those visits, those on-site visits, but they've kept them to a minimum, and they're now working quite effectively doing that. But a lot of people are still working from home. And it looks like there's going to be a possibility of more of them continuing to work from home. And the challenge that that throws up is, okay, it's great from a productivity point of view. The thing is, it's dividing that line between work and life. And the division between work and life is becoming very, very blurred today. Where it's advantageous for me is that I've been working from home for 33 years. So world, welcome to my world.
I say the same thing, John.
Yeah. So what's the thing is, it's getting that work-life balance. That's the important thing, because the management, the staff, not the staff, the organizations, yes, they want productivity from their people, but if their people are going to burn out, if their people are not happy, then they're not going to get that productivity. So it's getting that balance right between, yeah, okay, we want that work-life balance, but also we want that productivity as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. And obviously, those are the sort of key things that you talk about. And as a keynote speaker, you mentioned earlier that you'd been at conferences for HR, professionals, IT, finance. So when you're doing these keynote speaking, how do you add value?
Ah, it's a secret. Okay, so the way I add value, there are two ways that I add value. One is the fact that I make the presentations engaging and I make them fun, because my background, probably going to touch on this anyway. My background is as a magician. So I'm used to being in front of audiences, and I even use magic in my presentations to make the messages I talk about come alive, and to make them more impactful. So I underline the messages usually with a magic trick or humor or whatever it might be. And the way organizations tend to use me, because I'm entertaining and I make it fun, and because there is content in there, usually at a conference, they either have me opening the conference because they want to set the day off, they want to set the tone for the day,
Yeah.
get people talking to each other, or they'll use me as the after lunch slot, which is the graveyard slot, where people are kind of falling asleep. So they need somebody who's, shall we say, energizing, wakes people up,
Yeah.
but they want content in there. But that's one way of adding value. But the real way that I add value is that it's about the homework that I do. It's about the research that I do. So whichever organization I'm working for, even if I'm working for, let's say, half a dozen housing associations, I'll do the same. I don't take it for granted that just because I've spoken to one housing association, another housing association are going to have the same challenges and issues. Because at each conference, their organizers might have different objectives. So what
Yes.
I do is I do my homework to find out about the people that are in the audience. What are their challenges? What is it that they could be doing better? And in my presentation, I tailor relevant bits so the audience think, oh, he knows us, he understands us, because they know that I'm not pretending to be one of them, because I can't be. I'm an outsider. But the fact that an outsider has done their research and I'm using their language, I'm giving examples within their industry that they can relate to, then it's more engaging, because they think, all right, it's not just an off the shelf presentation, even though the tools I talk about, the mindset tools, might be just standard tools that can be used in any industry. But because I give the examples that they can relate to, then they go, oh, he gets us.
Yeah.
And that's how we get results. That's why they take action at the end and we get results. And there was something else that I was going to say, but it'll come to me because anyway, it'll come to me. Halfway through the next question, I'll go, I've remembered. And I'll come back. I'll come back to you. It's yeah, so it's about doing the research and ensuring that the audience realize that you understand. I mean, I don't really understand them because I've not walked in their shoes, but it shows, because I've made an effort, that you get better engagements.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. It's worth doing your homework for sure, so that you can better engage and, like you said, relate.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what do we want as human beings? All we want is to be understood. We want to be heard. And if somebody can turn around and say, okay, right, I might not understand you, but I can empathize with you
Yeah.
because these are the challenges that you've got. Right, I get that. Let's see what we can do to help you with that. And the other thing, I've remembered what I was going to say about adding value. Another thing where I add value, one of the things that I talk about, especially when I talk about resilience, is that quite often I've found in virtually every organization I've worked with, the people forget how good they are.
Yeah.
What tends to happen is we'll have a problem, and so this is general to all of us. We'll have when we're at work, we'll have a problem, an issue, a challenge of some sort. For instance, what do? We give it our attention, and we sort it out. And then what happens next? And do we say, well done there? No, we don't. We're going to the next problem, issue, and challenge. We give that our attention. We sort that out. And do we give ourselves a pat on the back? No, we're going to the next problem, issue, and challenge, and so on and so on and so on and so on. Well,
Yeah.
surely those problems, issues, and challenges are successful achievements, but we don't tend to remind ourselves of those achievements. And if we're not careful, we can lose perspective because it's very rare that any of us are, when we're working, that everything is falling apart, that everything is going wrong. There's always something that we're doing right. And it's important to remind ourselves. And quite often, in fact, in virtually every presentation, I will find half a dozen things that an organization has done well. And I'll pick up a piece of paper and go, and I know that you're good at your work. Why? And I'll reel off half a dozen things or so that will remind them that they are successful, that they're doing a good job. Yes, we cannot ignore the challenges and issues because they need to be sorted out, but we need to remind ourselves of the good that we're doing. And that's important, I think, with any presentation, especially the presentation that I'm doing when it comes to building resilience. We need to remind ourselves that we are talented and that we are doing a good job.
Totally, totally agree. We should celebrate more those wins. And you call it sort of achievement thinking.
Yeah, well, I call it achievement because about, I don't know, 8 years ago, something, I thought, I need to call it something. What am I going to call it? Because I need some sort of a hook. And the best thing I could come up with was achievement thinking. And at the time, and it stuck, and it's trademarked now. But it's achievement thinking. It's ways of thinking to achieve. So to give you a little bit about my background, because the reason why it came about was, or the reason why I came about speaking and why people tend to relate with me is that I started off in business about 33 years ago as a magician. I promise you, this is not a long story. So I started as a magician, performing close-up magic in local restaurants. Before lockdown, you will have been to an event or maybe to a meal at a restaurant where a magician came to the table and did little magic tricks.
Yeah.
So that's how I started all those years ago. And in 12 years, I built up my career to such a degree that I was working for nearly half of the blue chip companies in the UK. I was flying around Europe. I was going up and down the country. I was entertaining their top clients. I was on their exhibition stands where I was using my magic to promote their products and services, generating hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of business for them. I was at their conferences, their product launches, where I was using my magic to communicate their corporate messages. And I was no longer in front of audiences of about half a dozen people or so. I was now in front of audiences of 600, 700, 800 people all in one go. I
Wow.
mean, this boy did good. And yet
Amazing.
in 2002, I had a massive crisis in confidence, which I won't go into now, but I had a really big crisis in confidence. There was things going on in my life. And because of this crisis in confidence, in fact, basically, one of the things that helped was helped. One of the things that contributed to the crisis in confidence is that I did just three presentations in a row to large audiences of about 600, 700, 800 people, which in my opinion, not the client's opinion, my opinion, I thought they were not good enough. So I set the bar too high for myself. And I'm
Yeah.
thinking, oh, I'm now rubbish. I'm now no good. Forget about that. The client thought it was fantastic or it was great. It was no longer to my standards. So I started beating myself up, and business went, and I lost confidence because if you're performing and you're getting scores, say out of 10, where 10 is fantastic, I'm getting nines and tens out of 10, eight, nines and tens. And then suddenly, sorry, I'm getting nines and tens out of tens, and then suddenly I get an 8 out of 10. Then 8 out of 10 is still good.
Yeah.
But in my head, I was thinking, yeah, but it's not good enough. It's not a 10 out of 10. I'm not getting, I didn't get a standing ovation that time. Therefore, I must have done a really bad job. It's the ways we
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
And we all tend to do that. We tend to focus, instead of focusing on the good stuff, we just focus. So, for instance, I might do, let's say I did 100 presentations. I'd do 97 great presentations, really good
Yeah.
ones,
Yeah.
three poor ones. So, what do we do? Forget about the 97 good ones. It's these three poor ones. And it was that kind of thinking that was going on in my head. So after a few years after this crisis, my business went downhill with the crisis in confidence. And I was losing a lot of business because I was thinking, I wasn't a diva, but I can only do this. I can only perform in a certain way. So I started studying. I thought, how is it 1 minute I'm a super success, and the next minute I wasn't a nervous wreck, but I wasn't as successful as I was.
Mm.
And so I started studying biographies, successful people. I looked at a little bit of psychology, neurolinguistic programming, as it was.
Yeah.
I looked at spirituality and religion, not because I was interested in the religion. I was interested in how people thought. What was this thought? And I realized that when it comes to religion, spirituality, the business books that we read, the psychology, the basic principles in thinking are more or less the same. The only thing that changes is the language that we use.
Mm.
So, for instance, in religion, you might have prayer. In spirituality, you'll have meditation. In the business world, you'll have reflection. They're still the same thing.
Yeah.
But we're using different words. So I started learning all these techniques to build my own life up. And then about 10 years ago, somebody turned around to me and said, "Will you come into our company and talk about resilience? Because you're a success." Hang on a minute. I'm banging my head against the wall here. I'm driving a clapped out 10-year-old Volkswagen Golf. How am I? My life seems to be in tatters. How am I a success? Oh, but you keep going, don't you? Well, I suppose in those terms.
Yeah.
And then so that was kind of a light bulb moment. And then when I did the presentation, I realized that what I had to say worked because I'm speaking. I'm not. I've got no qualifications as far as having like a university qualification, or I'm not a doctor or anything. My only qualification is life experience. And I think that's another reason why people connect with me, because this is stuff that I use that works for me.
Yeah.
So that's how achievement thinking came about. Anyway.
Well, I totally, completely agree with everything you've just said there, John. I mean, obviously, my whole business has come out of my mental health journey. And so, a lot of that has been built on personal experience and learning and reflecting and all of the things you've just said around achievement thinking. And things will happen in life that knock us back, but it's how we get up and learn from it and move forward positively. And it sounds like you've absolutely done that.
Yeah, and I would love to say, oh, you know what? My life's perfect now. I still have challenges. Why? Because we're human beings. We
Yeah.
all have challenges.
Yeah.
And yeah, there are things going on in my life that I can do without. But you know what? There's a lot of great things that are going on in my life as well that I really love.
Mm.
So it's just a matter of how you manage it. That's the secret. It's about managing it and where we're
Yeah.
going to put our focus. And by the way, we
Like,
can't ignore the challenges, because if we do, they just get bigger and gives a bigger slap in the face. But as I say, it's manage it.
yeah. Like you said, it's about the mindset that you've got to push yourself forward in a positive way because you've still got to deal with those things, but it's how you approach them that makes the difference. I want to talk more about you being a magician. So,
I
how,
just,
how do you even learn that trade? I mean, do you
well,
have to
there I
become a member
was.
of the magic circle? How does it work?
When I was born, there I came out and had a magic wand in my hand. End of story. So, no, it was, how did it come about? It was, right, it's, I'm so ashamed to say this, right, but this is it. You get, this is, I do this when I speak in schools and I talk to young people about resilience, and they want to know how I became a magician. And it started when I was at college learning to become an optician. And I wanted, I'm ashamed to say this, it was, it was, it was a way of meeting girls. And I can tell you, Marie, it didn't work. It didn't work. I don't know what on earth was going on in my head. Right. Pick a card. Would you like to go out with me? I have no idea what was going on in my head. I can just put it down to the, I don't know, the ignorance of youth. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
But it turned out to be something that I really liked. By the way, I still like girls. I'm not that sad, right? I don't. I've got a balanced view of these things, and it just became a hobby that I enjoyed. And it started off as I wanted the hobby to pay for itself because there were books to buy, there were tricks to buy, there were magic lessons to have. So what I did, I got myself little jobs working in local restaurants, like a little residency working in a restaurant.
Yeah.
And whatever money I made, I spent it all on magic. Now, but the thing is, I still declared it to the tax. I ran it as a business. So I was earning money as an optician, but I ran as a business and declared everything, but I spent everything because I didn't want anybody turning around saying, why have you not declared? As it happened, nobody ever did. But I thought I better cover my bases just in case somebody did. And it just evolved from that. That's just how it happened. It was just that about having fun at the end of the day.
So
Then it,
all of your magic self-taught then?
I would love to say that. No, it isn't. I learned it from books, or I learned it, but I'm still learning even today. From books, from DVDs. I go to magic lectures. There'll be magic circle meetings. There'll
Ah,
be sometimes I'll think up things myself, or I might meet with a group of magicians and we'll discuss a particular trick or whatever.
yeah.
So yeah, it's it was a hobby. It became a business,
Hmm.
and now it's more of a hobby again. I mean, I still do maybe half a dozen after, well, before lockdown anyway. Obviously not during lockdown. Half a dozen after dinners where I would just do magic. I'd get
Right.
hired for like maybe in a year about 3 or 4 weddings, because for me it's just fun, and I'm not running it as a business. My main business is the speaking, but
Yeah.
it's kind of and it's not for the money. I'm not bothered about, but I use the money to pay for. Oh, right, I've got some extra money. I'm going to buy a couple of books because of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Oh, so
Brilliant. I mean, you do incorporate your magic skills within your talks as well at
yeah, yes, I
conferences and
do.
things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I do magic in the presentations, and that. So, for instance, like if we're talking about focus, I'll talk about what are we focusing on. I've got a section about being solution focused and problem focused, and to punctuate the point of where we're focusing, I'll get somebody up on stage, and I'll do a magic trick, and everybody in the audience can see how the trick is done, but the guy on stage hasn't got a clue what's going on because they're focusing in the wrong place. So I then illustrate, all right, and where are we focusing? And I can talk about focus. But what's good about the magic is that also it's not just conferences that I speak at. I get hired to speak at dinners as well.
Yeah.
Because at dinners, in fact, I'm beginning to get inquiries for pre-dinner and after dinner work because they're wanting content where we're talking about resilience, but because it's a dinner, they want
Yeah.
something lighter. At a conference, it's the message that's most important. The entertainment comes second. At a dinner, they're relaxing. It's the entertainment really that comes to the fore, and the message that is almost second. So,
Yeah, yeah.
so
So
not too bad.
what do you find rewarding about doing sort of that sort of work then, John, being that keynote
It's
speaker?
well, I find right. The rewarding thing is that first of all, I like to have fun, and I make my presentations fun. But the most rewarding thing is the difference that you can make. It's when afterwards somebody will come up to you and say, right, I heard you speak, I don't know, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and because of such and such a thing, I'm now doing this differently. And it's the fact that I am being of service and that I'm helping people. I think we all like to be of service
Yeah.
and that we're helping people. So,
Yeah, fantastic, brilliant. But who I'd like to know, who's the sort of person that's inspired you then for to do what you do now?
oh, well, to do what I do now, there wasn't really a person that inspired me to speak as such, although I've met many inspirational speakers.
Mm,
Because as I said earlier on, I kind of evolved into being a speaker. It almost came about by accident, and yet it seemed to be the natural next step in the evolutionary process.
yeah,
Because I started off as a magician because I was interested in magic. My style as a magician was influenced by certain magicians because of what I, certainly in the early days, when I was asked to use my magic on exhibition stands and on at product launches and use magic to communicate a message, I'd heard about that being done, but can you hear the siren?
is that
Did you?
you?
That was, yeah. I've got the window. I've got the window open. Welcome. Guess what? This has been recorded, as you might imagine, when we're all at home. Anyway, so it's a warm day today. The getting the message across, I knew that that could be done, but I didn't know how. But I worked out my own way. When it came to speaking at events, I didn't really know how to do that, but I worked out my own way. But then when I joined the Professional Speaking Association, and I saw the speakers, I started learning, oh, right, so this is how you structure a presentation. And yet I still find that I do it my own way. I found my own way, my own style of doing it. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that
I,
answered,
I,
but anyway.
I was going to say, for anybody who's listening that would like to have a look at sort of John's style, you've got some fantastic videos on your YouTube channel.
Thank you. They're a few years old now, and I'm just about in the next few weeks, as we record this, to record a series of YouTube shorts. So yeah, I'm not sure if I'll be able to make them fun like the other videos, but anyway, let's see how far we get with them. But there'll be great content in there.
Yeah, definitely. There's some fantastic content, and I always pop in and have a little look, see which new ones you're doing and what topics. So they can find that. Is it John Hotowka? You're
Yeah, so if they type in Hotowka, if they go into YouTube and search for Hotowka, Hotowka, then I think I'm the only Hotowka on the planet. I am.
that makes you unique, John.
I know. I had no idea, but I'm the only Hotowka. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I am the only Hotowka on the planet. Anyway.
Well, that's a good thing. So we've got through half an hour already, John, and I feel like we're just scratching the surface of the sort of things that you can help people with. But if people want to find out more, how's the best way that they can reach out to you?
Right. I think the easiest way might be through my website. So that's going to be in the notes in the
Yeah,
thing.
in the
But
description.
the website is all the W's dot Hotowka. That's HOTOWKA.co.uk.
Fantastic. And it's been a real pleasure to have you on today,
It's been
John.
a pleasure. I've loved it.
You're so entertaining.
This has been the best interview that I've had today.
Oh, I am pleased to hear that because it's
I,
what, 9:30?
Yes, no, we're approaching 10 o'clock. From 9:30 to 10 o'clock, we start at 9:30. So it's the best interview that I've had all day so far.
I hope I can keep that pedestal for a bit longer today then.
At least a couple of hours. I've got another one to do in about at midday. So
Well, best of luck with that one, John, and thank you so much for joining me today.
and thank you for asking me. I really appreciate it. It's been great. Thank you, Marie.
Thanks, John.